Let's get personal about protecting the public. The stories, the passion, the people behind the rules. From the pages of the Registrar magazine to every frame and frequency. Welcome to the front row of regulation's real stories. This is the Registrar Podcast.
Welcome to another episode of the Registrar Podcast. It has been a while since we have dropped an episode, and that is because MDR Strategy Group has been unbelievably busy the past 12 months. We have been blessed serving so many regulatory bodies right across the country and being involved in other projects outside of Canada. So we're back. And coincidentally, we're also celebrating this month this organization's 8th birthday. And we thought what we would do for this episode is something a little bit different. In the past, if you follow us, you know that we have been interviewing registrar CEOs and other people who have who bring a lot to the regulatory sector. This time, my staff has asked to interview me. So I'm the guy who is who's on the hot seat. And I'm going to answer some questions, quite a few that I actually don't know what is going to be asked of me. So it should be pretty interesting. Let me introduce a couple of people to you. First of all, Colette Deschênes. She's our Director of Communication Strategy. All of the difficult questions will 100% come from her. And Edwin Aqua, who has just joined us about 3 months ago. He's our Manager of Administration and Operations, and he's going to be asking me some difficult questions again as well. The one thing about Edwin is that Edwin loves to smile and loves to laugh. So even his tough questions will come across as really fun. So I'm looking forward to answering those as well. And the other person I'm going to introduce who's off camera that you can't see is Toyin. Toyin is producing this. She is she's a communications associate who really focuses on digital communications, and I'm blessed that she's producing this. And we are in the studios of BNV in Halifax. They are our podcast producers. So I'm going to hand this over to you guys, and let's do this. I'm a little bit nervous. I'm a little bit excited.
You should be.
Let's make it happen.
Great. Now that you're in the hot seat, let's start with some of your story. We really want to dive into what inspired you to start MDR Strategy Group now that we're celebrating our 8th birthday? What led to this?
Yeah, so it would have been 8.5 years ago. I started thinking I really need another job. I had been in the regulatory sector for a while, and I didn't want to leave it, but I wanted to do something where I could serve regulators. And I thought the best thing to do is start up my own gig. I came from a role as Director of Communications, and I boldly thought I can become the Director of Communications of all regulators in the country. It was a very, very bold and ambitious move, and it worked. I had built a lot of relationships with regulatory bodies and communications teams right across the country. Mm-hmm. And as soon as I launched, which at the time was MDR Public Affairs, I reached out to my colleagues, and they thought it was a great idea. And really, a lot of them rallied to support us. And here we are 8 years later with a team of 8. I would think that we would all agree that the sky's the limit with what it is that we can do and where we can go.
That's exciting.
Definitely. Well, so every person or organization is characterized by the milestones or the big things that kind of define who they are. I have come to learn about the regulatory labs, which is Reg Jobs, the Registrar, Canadian Regulatory Guide. Can you give us how MDR is uniquely positioned to take advantage and support clients going into the future?
Yeah, that's a really cool question. So the regulatory lab started with when MDR started. I thought, in addition to just providing services to regulatory bodies as a consultant, there were services and there were products and there were tools that I knew the sector needed that they didn't have. And I thought instead of going to these clear conferences, which I often did, and sat around in circles with a lot of my communications friends, and where we complained about what didn't exist, I thought, why don't I actually make some things happen? First thing that I did was I created the Canadian Regulatory Guide, which is part of the lab. Yeah. That is actually a public register of all Canadian regulatory bodies. So you can find a regulatory body, you can file a complaint, you can find a discipline decision very, very easily. We say within 30 seconds. Of course, depending on your level of online literacy. Beyond that, we created regulatory jobs. That really came out of me looking for work in the regulatory sector and thinking, oh my goodness, the only way that I can find a job is by figuring out what are the regulatory bodies and do they have employment? So I would sit there and I would Google and I would say, oh, okay, so there's this organization, let me check, and there was no job. By creating the regulatory, the jobs website, what happened is that we created a hub for employment opportunities in the sector. It is by far the most popular hub for employment opportunities today. The magazine was also something that kind of came out of that, where we as communications professionals thought, we all have the same mandate. Our mandate is to protect the public interest. That's it. And it doesn't matter who you are, whatever regulatory body you're with, that's our mandate. But very few of us knew what others were doing. So whether you're a physician and surgeon, whether you're a lawyer, we just really wanted to figure out how can we share our stories? What is each regulatory body doing and how can we help? So we created this magazine that first was literally just more of a newsletter, and it's grown from there. So we're just about to publish, I think, episode 14. It's a quarterly digital magazine. And it's just growing and growing. And the next piece now is that we focused a lot on Canada, but we're now looking to make it more of an international magazine as we're becoming more familiarized with regulatory bodies around the world.
That's great.
Good, yeah. Well, I know that we have moved into our new offices because I have an office there. And we've shared as much information about when we're moving in and all that with our clients and our people that follow us. What makes working in MDR so unique, and the fact that we are situated in Ontario and in Nova Scotia gives that hybrid work environment. What makes it unique, and how do we take advantage of that to give?
One of the unique aspects is your humility. When we got the office less than 30 days ago, I am certain I will never forget when I walked into the office and I said, Edwin, this is your office. And the first thing you said was, why? The humility of our team is what drives this company. We're not in this for the wealth. We're not in this because we're looking to get famous. We fundamentally believe in social impact. We fundamentally believe in making a change. You have earned that office. We've all earned where it is that we are. That translates to passion within the organization. We hear a lot of clients speaking about our passion. Our tagline, right, is we're driven by purpose and we deliver with passion. This is precisely what it's about. We are located in Ontario because MDR started in Ontario, and we decided during COVID, let's move to Nova Scotia. I'd been in Nova Scotia before. I wanted to come back home. Living was a little bit cheaper, and we also got away from just the high octane lifestyle that the Greater Toronto area brought, that I thought that at this point in my life I didn't want. So I came to Nova Scotia and set up MDR, or moved MDR over here, and started to bring staff on board. But we have great team members in the Greater Toronto area that are still part of this. So we have a 2-location business. We have a hybrid work environment where staff can work from home, but they can also work in the office. Since we got the office just 30 days ago, we're still figuring out how that works because we were all remote before that. And that worked, but I think also it didn't work as well as I would have liked because we knew each other very well on 13-inch monitors, but we didn't actually know each other as people. We didn't know what drove us. I found that it was a very transactional, I love that word. I think it's a very transactional relationship, but with that transaction, the passion doesn't necessarily come through. And I'm beginning to see it now. And how can the passion not show through when you're on the first floor in Bedford and the Atlantic Ocean is but 25 meters away from your office?
Yeah.
I mean, the view is just absolutely stunning.
True.
We have a nice
Great.
little area with 2 beautiful orange chairs, and I love to call that the Inspiration Center.
Yeah.
We haven't come up with any inspiration yet, except to
It'll
have
come.
lunch and look at the boats. But I'm sure that we'll have some great things coming out of that.
Well, but I would say that from right close to the inspiration area, you and I have been putting together some good information on
true.
our board.
Yes.
Yeah, so we're close to that.
Great brainstorming. Yeah.
Hopefully we will develop that further and get better at it.
And if the clients say, wow, that's really great, where did this come from? We say, well, the Inspiration Center.
Well, okay. So what moments and projects are you so proud of since you started MDR?
I'm one of those people that I have few moments where I can pull out of, not just from MDR, but my entire career, where I can say, this is what I'm most proud of. I put my blood, sweat, and tears into everything. And when I see something work, which I hope it does with the amount of energy I put into it, and again, that passion, I'm proud of everything. I really am. I am humbled beyond humble when we get a phone call or we get an email. Either you've bid for this project and you've won it,
Yeah.
of which we're getting more and more. Last year, we were at almost 100% success rate in our bids, to the phone just ringing and somebody saying, we would love you guys to do that. Yeah. My goodness. How did that happen? How did that happen from a guy who was just like, I'm the director of communications and I want to set up a regulatory consulting firm. And now it's working. I'm proud of everything. I'm proud of when Damien, who's still with us, came on board. I'm so proud that Colette, who came from Nova Scotia regulatory body, came on board. When you came, Toyin, Allison, the whole crew, all of those are milestones. Every time somebody else comes on board, we have to change things a little bit because of what you're bringing to the game. And I'm learning that with you. I'm learning how to be a better manager, how to be a better a CEO, how to be a better service delivery agent. All of that happens with every new person that comes, every new client that comes on board, and every challenge that we face. I would say that I'm especially proud when somebody calls us and says, we need you to do something, and it sounds complete gibberish to me. And before I actually say yes, I actually have to say, what do they mean? And we have to do that research and we have to figure it out. Say, okay, we've just learned something. This is cool. Let's sit down, and you and I have been doing this quite a bit in the last few months. We figure it out and we're like, okay, so if we apply the tools that we have, recognizing what licensing and professional regulation is, this is the solution that we can provide for that client. Every single time that this happens, massive moment for us to pat ourselves on the back, and also the client as well. All memories that we can take with us.
Yeah, there's been lots of proud moments. I feel like we all feel your excitement every time a call or like an RFP kind of comes through. It's across the team where we feel your pride and your excitement for the work that we're doing.
And that's why you're here, because I sense that in all of you when when we were doing the whole interview process. I surround myself with people who drive me and people who inspire me. You all know. One is I thrive on advice. So if you're not somebody who can advise me, you're probably not somebody that I'd like to work with. If you're not somebody who can celebrate with me, probably not somebody I want to I'd want to work with. Somebody who's not strategic, probably not somebody that is going to fit within the framework of our team. 100%. So you guys are smart, you're advisors, and you're fun.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we work hard, but my goodness, we smile a lot too. And that's really, that's just the greatest of the great.
Yeah. And we do have a great team, especially the jokes that we share.
Yes.
We all come out of our offices and someone has something to say, and it's triggering other instances that we get.
So public protection, a lot of the conversations that we have as a team, but also with our clients. And I know recently you've written a few blogs for our MDR Strategy blog about public protection and public engagement as well. So just want your thoughts for the podcast in terms of what does it mean for regulators to protect the public? Like, what does that look like? effective public protection?
Yeah, it's a very good question about the blog. It's something I've been wanting to do forever. And when you set up a company, you have all these ideals. You have these must-haves and nice to haves. And to blog has always been a nice to have. Thankfully, when Toyin jumped onto our team, she's impressed upon me the importance of being consistent. So I've learned that, and I'm being consistent with trying to blog. So those of you who are listening, if you're not seeing blogs from me every couple of weeks, reach out and say, Daniel, Toyin said you're supposed to be consistent, and I will drop another blog. Public protection is what regulation is all about. You know, it's we people say regulation, they say consumer protection, they say protecting the public interest. At the end of the day, it is about making sure that the users of the services or the products that the public provides or that service providers have are safe. We speak to a lot of regulators about the importance of recognizing first and foremost that when you say the public isn't everybody who's out there.
100%.
Everybody has a different definition of the public.
Yes.
If you're a physician and surgeon regulator, your public are the people who come and see you. Same with real estate, same with everything.
Yes.
We've asked regulators to go out there and to do exercise and really figure out who is your public. What does that public want from you? How do they want to be informed about what it is that you provide and how they can be protected? Yeah. And that helps inform yourself on how you can be a better regulator. And we talk about relevant regulation, and that is something that's really become front and center in the last few years. Gone are the days of top-bottom regulation where regulatory bodies are these big bad authorities and say you must or else. They've become part of community. And they're there to protect the public, but they're also there to guide registrants, license holders, members, whatever it is that you call them, so that they can, so that the people that they regulate are able to provide their service with excellence. And if they miss that, then that is either incumbent upon the regulator for missing something in terms of education, or it is on the registrant side where they have missed something. So really what that's what that's all about. And we really can't say that enough to our clients. You in communications, the way regulators communicate to the registrants and members of the public really has to be dependent on who that public is and who those registrants are.
Yeah, and asking them how they want to be communicated with.
Exactly.
Right? So we kind of put our assumptions aside and actually engage with folks to understand how to effectively reach them, which, you know, in turn makes for more effective regulation.
Right.
So great. You talked about relevant regulation, and that's something we talk about a lot, and kindness in regulation. And obviously this year, the focus has been AI and regulation.
Yes.
So a huge moment for our team was hosting a conference, an AI and regulation conference on February 2025 in Toronto. And we brought together folks from coast to coast across the sector with some really great keynote speakers. So just curious for your thoughts on the impact of AI and regulation and particularly in public protection and, you know, some of the opportunities and challenges, especially based off the conference, but just your own personal thoughts as well.
Yeah, so certainly the conference was, going back to what you were saying, some sources of pride. People who've organized conferences, they always, you know, a conference always begins with an idea and then you have to put it on paper. Yeah. You define success when people walk in that door, when it happens. There was a certain, I remember the day before, we were all in the building, we were running around, we were trying to figure out what was going on, and everybody was freaking out, and I was super calm because I knew that we were going to be okay. I was less calm that morning of February 11th when the doors opened and people walked in, because my thought was, oh my goodness, what have we done? Now we actually have to deliver. But we had such amazing speakers. We had 130 people in that room, Canadians, Americans, there were Irish, German, not sure, I don't know if it was anybody else, but certainly 130 people. Ghanaian, Nigerian. It was an international conference, and what was so important about that was that this is groundbreaking. AI is groundbreaking in and of itself. So Paul Byrne, who was one of our keynote speakers, spoke at a CLEAR conference a year before in Tucson, Arizona. And I apologize, I got COVID that very day. And I feel really bad about it. So if anybody got COVID 2-3 days after that, I'm sorry. That was 100% my fault. Hope you're okay. But Paul had said, he started talking about ChatGPT, and I hadn't even heard of it at that point in time. And he was playing around with it while he was presenting. And he said, some of us are talking about this. And he said, in 6 months, more of us are going to be talking about this. And he said something like, in a year from now, everybody's going to be talking about that. And I thought that was a very grandiose statement because I've been around for a while and I have seen things happen, but I've never seen anything happen that quickly.
Speed.
There was a need for this conference. There was an absolute need because of how quickly this AI thing is affecting the world. And in regulation, I really see it affecting two sides. One, how are regulators employing artificial intelligence to regulate their own registrants, their own license holders? Because those registrants and license holders are using AI in their own practices. Whether you're a social worker, whether you're a doctor, whether you're a lawyer, to what end can you do that? So I'm not a lawyer, but I'm going to assume that a regulatory body would be somewhat concerned if a lawyer brought a client on board and had to file a statement of claim and went to ChatGPT and said, do it for me, right? I think that there's limits on what you can do. So regulators need to start thinking about that.
True.
The other piece is that in terms of operations, regulators need to start thinking about how do you employ artificial intelligence in communications, in professional standards, as an executive, and how do we make sure that the AI that we're employing is effective in the work that we do. So it's critical. We started that conversation, but the conversation needs to go much farther. And I'm excited that we're going to. I'm going to announce it on this podcast right now. There is going to be AI conference number 2. It is going to be in the winter, probably in January or February, probably February of 2026. But I want to continue with that conversation. This time, let's take it a little bit one step farther, and let's speak to regulators and say, what have you done to this day? So let's do more of a show and tell. What have you done? How has that affected you? How's that helped you in regulation, in your own operations? And what stories can you share with other regulatory bodies? MDR is also preparing to launch a new service where we're going to offer AI readiness assessments, because that is really important as well. I would be cautious with just saying we're going to do it. An AI readiness assessment really is to assess where you are and where it is that you can jump off from, and then we can definitely support you with that.
One of the things that's interesting in terms of the AI conference, taking it back to what you shared at the beginning of the podcast about, what drove you to start MDR, but also the magazine, right? It's sharing those stories and kind of being the facilitator of those conversations within the sector, which I think is one of the biggest takeaways of the conference for me and for attendees as well, like based off the feedback that we heard it was great to connect with other folks across Canada and obviously beyond, as you mentioned, to have these conversations and information share and kind of build on best practices and how we're approaching AI within the sector. So it's just interesting how you've kind of, that's been part of the work that you've done with MDR and all the other aspects of the work that we do, is being the facilitator of those conversations and bringing people together.
Bringing people together, and I think the facilitation piece that you're talking about is really important. I won't ever say that we are subject matter experts in everything that we do. But what we are is exactly that. And it's also, I also see this as a principal tenet in community development and community economic development. If you go into a community with the tools you have as a consultant, you don't know more than the community does. And you can never be so arrogant to think that you do. But what you have is you have the tools to facilitate a process to support that community. And that is the same with AI. The regulators are the subject matter experts. I mean, you and I have both worked in the regulatory sector. I think we love to call ourselves recovering regulators. But it's been a few years since we've been there. We know the fundamentals. We're keeping ourselves in tune. We know what's happening in the regulatory sector, but they are the practitioners, and we're working with those practitioners to achieve what it is that they need to for that ultimate goal, which is to effectively protect the public.
What I saw on the day, and I would capture it from this perspective. There's this Ghanaian adage that says, if you see your neighbor's house burning, you put a bucket of water by your house. So that day, what I saw was people taking notes of other people's impressions, other people's perspectives, so that they get a new lens from which they look at things. I can bet that when we come in February, those people who didn't have anything to say would now say, hey, I put a bucket of water next to my house and I saw a fire here and I put it out. Yeah. I got this and this happened. And that kind of energizes the conversation. It energizes the people who had something to say previously to say, hey, we need to consider this from this point of view. And perspectives are everything. I think everyone doesn't have all the truth, but with everyone's bit, we begin to see the shape of things. So
it's an interesting saying. I got a question about that, though. Yes. So if your house is burning, you put a bucket of water by your house. Why don't you just take the bucket of water and help put out the fire?
Well, because in hindsight, it's burning. So you need to protect yours.
Okay, got it. So there's a method to that madness.
Oh, yes.
Okay, good.
So yeah, that was a proud moment for you, I know, and for the MDR team as a whole. Yeah. Another moment that I can think of that I was a part of, and Melissa, who's our director of public engagement, was joining you in Baltimore in September, and that was to receive the Clear Regulatory Excellence Award for our group and our team. So just share, I want to know, like, what did that mean to you in receiving that award from Clear?
Well, I think there's no secret that I'm passionate about things. I'm also, the one thing I dislike the most about me is that I'm very emotional. I'm a very emotional guy. And there was being in that room with 500 people and seeing a video with regulators sharing their experiences with us. I could not fight back the tears. It was so hard. I can't describe that moment because I've never been one who seeks attention. I like to feel that we're doing a good thing and hopefully we're helping people. And when you get recognition for it, I'm just not one of those guys who runs out and says, I need this award. I need this one. I need that one. So when it happens, it's just extra special. And I was so proud that you were there and that Melissa was there because we really are, the foundation of this little firm, and to have the both of you come up on stage, this wasn't Daniel's award. This was MDR's award. Yeah. And you guys make everything better. I feel stronger having you there, and it was tough. I'm sitting there and there's tears streaking down my face, and they say, "Okay, come on up, Daniel." It was probably not the best moment for me to go up, but I felt super strong and super safe with the two of you there to accept the award, and the award now sits in your office, because I'm eternally grateful that we've been able to come together to really, in a lot of ways, we've achieved the impossible, and I think that regulators, certainly by the applause that we got, it was thunderous. Really, to me, seemed like there was agreement that we're doing the right thing, and those of you who supported us, who listened to this, thank you so much. It just means everything to me.
Yeah, it was a super meaningful moment for the team as a whole.
Well, the most important thing I got from that was some tears were flowing. So I think there's a good time to share some tears.
Tears were flowing. Yes, tears were definitely flowing. MDR has a very, very close relationship with Clear. And those of you who don't know, it's the Council on Licensure Enforcement and Regulation out of Kentucky. I still don't know why they're in Kentucky, but that's another issue. They're an incredible group run by Adam Parfit, They have supported my journey in the regulatory sector since 2016. And MDR has always offered to be there and to support them in any way that we can. So we go to their conferences. I've been to Australia, Ireland, and all of the ones, I think almost everyone in the US, certainly since 2018, Canadian ones. And we make ourselves available. If you need the MDR expertise to support you in a conference with everything, we're there for you. We love to put double-page spreads in the Registrar magazine about their conferences. So when they were the ones who, as the ones who offer awards, to give us that regulatory excellence award really says that our support of them is reciprocal, and it means everything. They're a really good group of people.
Yeah, it was my first Clear conference, and it was a lot of fun. And we facilitated a workshop as well.
Right.
Yeah, on social media and stakeholder engagement. So it was really neat to connect with the Clear community and get to actually facilitate a workshop and then be part of the conference as a whole and then receive our award.
Yeah.
So I think it was an exciting time for our team.
That was wonderful.
Yeah.
I look forward to the next one.
Yeah, well, hopefully. It's in Chicago. Let's go.
Fingers crossed.
So we'll get into the rapid fire here in a minute, but one last question, just because I think it's a fun one and a way to look back on your journey with MDR. So think back to yourself in 2017. What advice would you give to yourself? And what, as you were starting MDR, what advice would you give?
So I did give myself advice. So in full transparency, I ran two little consulting firms before that. I have been an entrepreneur at heart since the very, very beginning, since I was a kid. So I always knew that I wanted to do this. This time around, the advice that I gave myself, especially because I started focusing on communications, was don't do everything. A mistake that a lot of entrepreneurs make is I'm going to show everybody that I can do everything, see what sticks, and run with it. And that, to me, is a recipe for disaster. True. You get an inflation of who you are, and then you start to get projects that you don't know how to do, and you become a victim of your own success. Yeah. I said to myself, we're focusing on licensing and regulation first and foremost, and nonprofit organizations, and within the communication stream. We focused on that. We built that. Then we said, let's move on to public engagement, because it seemed like it just made sense to bring it to that next piece. And then organizational leadership and design. So our pillars have been established very strategically and very slowly. Yeah. If you throw out there and see what sticks against that wall, you're most likely destined to fail. So, and take your time, be patient. It's going to come. A year or two seems like a long time when you're standing at today, but every time you look back at 2 years from now or 2 years ago, you realize that really wasn't that long ago. Yeah.
And a lot can happen in a short period of time.
Amazing. And it's unbelievable how much can happen in just a few months. I mean, you think about we're in April now. Yes. Look at where MDR was in January. True. You can't look at it because you weren't even there. But look at how transformative that has been since you have joined the organization. Yeah. So you've joined, Sophie's joined. We have a new office, right? There's just so many things that have come. We've got a whole bunch of new projects. We've committed that we're going to go to a Clear conference in New Zealand. We're going to another regulatory conference in Australia. I mean, all of these things happen so quickly. Yeah. So take your time. Take a deep breath, and anybody who wants to become a consultant, I would say the advice that I just gave is number 2. The number 1 advice, do not quit your full-time job until you know that you are stable. Okay. Anybody who says, I'm going to take out a loan and I'm going to quit my job and I'm going to see what's going to happen is you're going to end up back at another full-time job with $100,000 loan and you're going to freak out. So do it part-time until you know that you're stable. Partner with others, and then when you know you can do it, then quit your job.
That's great.
Yeah, a key thing about partnerships, and that would be my thing. Who would you say have been a very good partner to you in this journey?
Are you asking me to say you?
No, because I'm pretty new. But externally, outside MDR, partnerships, what made it work?
I think we have a huge, we call it a community of practice. There's so many that are really important pieces in this journey. I don't think there's any one person, but there is advice that I got at my very last day of university when I graduated from Dalhousie, just 2 kilometers away from here. A dear professor of mine, Ian McAllister, pulled me aside and he said, Daniel, I know you're going to be successful one day, but I need you to think of this. If you want to succeed in life, you're going to need to remember 3 things: partnerships, partnerships, partnerships. And I have never, ever forgotten that. And without those partnerships, you cannot succeed. You can't stand on your own. So be it an accounting firm that's going to help you, be it bringing on a mentor, be it an organization such as Clear, all of those are critical partners that make this whole thing work.
And hiring fun people.
And hiring amazing people.
Like
yeah, you said external, but certainly, I mean, internally, I would say partner. I see this as again, communities of practice. We are all practitioners in our own right. We've come together to work on one very focused issue, and it's working. It's working well. There's reason to celebrate every day.
Go MDR.
Go MDR.
Go team, go. So let's get into rapid fire.
Okay.
Edwin,
Yeah.
kick it off.
So let me just back up a little bit and just let everybody know the rapid fire, which I realize I've actually been calling firing squad, and firing line is not right.
No.
And I'm going to blame that on English not being my first language, which is true. So I'd sometimes say things I really don't mean. So this is called rapid fire.
Rapid fire.
We ask our guests one quick question and they need to answer it without thinking about it.
Would you go for a brown shoe or a black shoe to the most important event?
Oh, brown shoes, 100%.
Describe the energy of MDR in one word.
Exciting.
What is the best piece of advice you've received about leadership?
Partnerships, partnerships, partnerships.
Awesome.
What's one word that you hope clients feel after working with MDR?
Thrilled.
Favorite restaurant in Halifax?
Without a question, Il Mercato in Bedford.
El Mercado. What about Toronto?
Don't have one in Toronto.
No?
I have one in Burlington, which is the Sakai Japanese, Korean fusion restaurant where they have the best sushi. I honestly think of all the places I've traveled in the world, I think it's the best sushi in the world.
Okay, so I have an interesting one.
Yeah.
And it's going to take a while. So you're going to describe each MDR member in one word.
Oh, my goodness.
So we start from the top. Daniel.
Describe himself?
Yes.
Describe myself?
You're thinking.
Too much thinking.
You know what? I'm going to focus on the Jamaican part of me. Chill.
Nice. Melissa.
Intellectual.
Colette.
Ultimate partner.
Okay. Damien.
Awesome.
Did you hear that, Damien? Allison.
Awesome.
Oh. Tonyan.
Awesome.
Sophie.
Awesome.
No way. Edwin.
Awesome.
Okay.
I know you guys were going to trick me with that one, and I mean that is tough.
Yeah.
You are thorough. You, Toyin, are inspiring. Sophie just joined us a couple of weeks ago. She is just her youthful energy, so just energetic.
Fresh. Yeah.
100%. Damien is his journalistic abilities is something that I really hold very dear.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say that for him, certainly, he and him in his own right has been a mentor to me for the Registrar magazine. So we'll put mentor for him.
Nice.
Melissa has been my leader too. So I would put that there. And my true advisor is Colette.
Okay. And Ali?
And Allison is my friend.
Ah.
I've known Allison for 30 years, and she'll be mad when I say it. That's actually 35 years now. But Allison is really good people. And more than anything, I trust Allison because of our longstanding relationship or friendship, I should say. And having somebody who knows me from my youth brings a whole different element. Her loyalty, and maybe I'll say that about her. That's the adjective for Allison is loyalty. Is second to none.
True.
That makes an awesome team.
I agree with everything.
Yeah.
I also have my own words, but
I know. I was thinking of them at the same time.
When I'm on the other side, I'll tell.
We'll interview you at some point in time.
So happy birthday, MDR.
Happy birthday, MDR. Yeah, this has been really great. Thank you both for taking the time to interview me.
Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday to you.
None for me.
Well, we appreciate you all tuning into this episode and join us for another Registrar Podcast, which will drop sometime soon. Don't forget, if you haven't already done so, to go to theregistrar.ca, where you can find the next issue of the Registrar magazine. And we'll see you next time.
See you next time.
See ya.